attending this training, this webinar on implementation of B2G, MWBE, and SDVOB payment reporting systems. Like as we mentioned, some ground rules: please keep your microphones muted, your cameras off. If you have any questions, please don't wait till the very end of this webinar. You can go ahead and type them in the chat box, and we will make sure your questions are answered. Or if not, you can wait till the end of the webinar when we will have a Q&A session. So I'm going to pass it over to Ryan Young. Ryan Young is the Affirmative Action Coordinator for New York and interim for New Jersey. And he is the point of contact for, in the case of aviation, for the transitioning of the B2G as a diversity payment affirmation tool. This webinar is also co-hosted by the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. They are joining us as well. But Ryan, take it over from here, and we will see you at the end of this webinar with the Q&A session.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the webinar. And I just want to go into a little bit of background regarding the prior process we were taking in terms of affirmation of payments from the prime to the diversity. To the diverse firm. So a bit on the background, as per the TCAP process, to ensure that the plan MWBE goals are met, we had a monthly statement of payments report, which was the PA 3968A paper form. So it reflected the actual payments to the MWBE and SDVOB contractors that were submitted on a monthly basis throughout the construction period. And they were due by the 15th of each month, basically saying what was paid for the previous month to the diverse firms. And that had to be, typed manually and confirmed manually from both the prime as well as the subcontractor, the diverse subcontractor. So what this B2G now change will constitute will be that we'll be using that for monitoring the payments as opposed to the 3968A paper form. So that will be essentially removed. And what B2G now is, it's a web-based platform that many people may already be familiar with. It monitors and improves reporting accuracy on MWBE participation. As you know, as per TCAP manual, Port Authority's goals are 20% MBE, 10% WBE, and 3% SDVOB participation goals. So just how the system will work. So, and the actual process of the system and how we'll actually use it will be in the next part of the presentation. But just in a general sense, the vendors will be required to create a username and password to access the Port Authority's portal, which is B2G Now. Accounts are free with unlimited users. And the process is simple. A lot of the vendors have already been, they've already been acclimated to B2G Now, especially if they've worked with diverse firms throughout other agencies. So it's very simple to use, and also they should already be somewhat familiar. So the prime contractors will receive a notification email to self-report their payment on the contract and report payments to their subcontractors. Once the prime contractor has reported their payments, the subcontractors will also receive a notification email to confirm the payments reported by the prime contractor. Both notification emails will include login instructions, and B2G Now will send notifications the first of each month. So basically, once the prime contractor has reported, and once it's time to submit your payments for the month, and again, it has to be done. Has to be done by the 15th of the month. You know, the prime will actually report what they paid the sub, and then the sub will get an email notification email to confirm that amount and when. So that is essentially the process, and it's again, we'll go in depth into that in the next part of the presentation, but it's very simple. And the implementation of this will start on October 1st. And so all new TCAP projects will be required to use B2G now. But if, you know, the projects that have already gone underway, that it does not, B2G now will not be used for those, but any new projects after or starting October 1st, B2G now will be used. So, you know, that was a brief overview, but at this point, if there are any questions about the process, you know, I'll open the floor now. Okay, if there are no questions, and I'll hand it over to I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
You stay muted. Wait till the end of the session to ask questions. Go ahead, continue, start the presentation, please.
Okay, now I'll hand it over to Robert to go over the actual process.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Aline, and so I will be walking you through, I'll be your facilitator today for the diversity management system. And so I also do this presentation in conjunction with B2G Now. And so essentially, we're going to walk you through the different features of how to complete your audits on a regular basis. So let's start. So as was previously stated, we're going to go through this presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll have a time for questions and answers. If you have questions prior to that, you could put it in the chat, so then that way we could track it as we get to the question and answer session at the end of the presentation. So as we start here. So what we will be discussing today is this portion here, understanding the contract audit process using the compliance audits list, and then we're going to have questions and answers. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go through a PowerPoint presentation, and then after we complete the PowerPoint presentation, we're actually going to go into the system and show you how to actually complete the steps. So it's going to be done twice. So we'll show you via the PowerPoint, and then we're going to go into the actual system to show you how to do it in the actual system. So the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Diversity Management System is a web-based tool that provides subcontractors at all tiers payment reporting, subcontractor payment confirmation at all tiers, and real-time exception monitoring for staff. So I'll put this slide back up at the end of the presentation so that in case there's questions after this presentation, if for some reason you think of something later on and need to get some assistance with the system, this is the website. And then for technical support, this is the email address that you can use if you have questions after this presentation. I'm just leaving it up for a couple of seconds now in case people want to copy it down. But again, I will put this slide back up at the end of the presentation. So once you log into the portal, and if you need help and support, as you can see, there's a help and support tab, a drop-down tab on the left-hand side. And so in the help and support tab, there are training classes. So if there's some features about the portal system that you would like to get more information about, they do have training classes that you can sign up for. There's a video library, and that's under the tab as well. As you can see there, where you can select some of the video libraries that highlight certain topics on how to utilize the portal. There's help tools in the upper right. So in case that you're having problems with the system, that you can start to work through there. And then also, if you need to submit a support ticket, there's that option over here. And so these are if you're having problems with the system or wanting to find out some more information about certain topics. These are the different options that you have when you log into the portal. So the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey Diversity Management System is a web-based tool that provides, now I'm not going to read the whole list, I'll let you do that, but I'll highlight some of the points on here. So it's for subcontractor payment confirmation, real-time exception monitoring for staff. Also, if you're applying for MWBE or DBE, you're submitting an application, this is the system that you would utilize to submit those applications to get these certifications. So some of the benefits, and these are the benefits of utilizing this system. And again, I won't read the whole list. I'll let you read through it, but I'll highlight some of the points. No cost to vendors. So this is a system that does not would not be a charge to you. Vendors can manage their own accounts. And so you'll be able to manage each of your accounts. And then also another thing to highlight here is that there's multiple user accounts for each vendor. And so with that being the case, that means that there's no need to share passwords. Each person that you need to complete the audits, they can have their own account. And so that it's not something that is only one account and only one person can log into. And as was stated previously, it's no cost to the vendor. So you can create as many accounts as you need to be able to complete these audits in a timely manner. And then one thing at the bottom here for the compliance officer that makes this a very solid system is that data is collected in a standard format. So this is what the landing page would look like when you go to the website. This is what the landing page would look like for logging in. So if you're not sure if you have an account on the system, on the portal, what you can do is on the landing page, there's a section that says account lookup. You can enter the name of your business, or you can type in the tax identification number for your business and then click enter. Once you do that, it will let you know who has an account on the system. Now, if you do not see your name on the list that is presented after you click it, after you enter your organization's name, then there's a couple of options that you have. So if you would like to have an account set up for you, the easiest option is to find someone on the list that you could contact that knows you, and they can request for you to be a new entity on the portal system. This is the easiest process because the person knows you. They don't have to confirm that you work at the organization, and it's a quicker process. If not, then you would have to contact either the compliance officer or B2G now, and it's just a few more steps that would need to be added because they would first need to confirm that you work for the organization, and then it'll probably take a little while for them to add you. So that is another option, but the easiest option is to find someone on the list and then have them add you as a new user entity. So if you were to click on your name, or if you have an account on the portal system, you would see this information presented. So it would be the email and the phone number, your location. Now, you would want to make sure that this information is correct, because if you're looking to reset your password, as is shown here, the reset instructions would go to wherever the email is that is saved within the system. So if this is the wrong email, when you're looking to reset your password, It's not going to go to the right email address. So you want to make sure that's up to date. And so the way to update this information is the request contact information change. You would click on here, you would make sure that everything is up to date. And then if you ever have to reset your password, then that's where the information would go. So we're going to walk through the contract compliance process. As you can see here, it's showing A, B, and C, and 1, 2, and 3. Now, A, B, and C is going to be, we're going to walk through the contract compliance process as if you are a prime. 1, 2, and 3, we're going to walk through the contract compliance process as if you're a subcontractor. Now, you're going to realize there's a lot of similarities because the system uses the same format and the same data, but different information will be presented to whether you're a prime or a subcontractor. But the layout, the information, the way that it's presented will look very similar, but there'll be slight nuances on what is provided to the prime and what is provided to a subcontractor. So we're going to walk through the steps as a prime now. So first thing is that as a prime, you'll receive an email. It's going to look in this format. The format of the email is going to look like this. And there's going to be two options. And so the first option is to complete an audit for a specific audit period. The second option is to complete all overall audits that the prime may need to complete. So to repeat that again, the first one is for a specific audit period. The second option is for all overall audits that need to be completed by the prime. So once you are logged into the system, there's two ways that you can complete the audits. The simplest way is on your dashboard. When you set up your dashboard, it would show incomplete audits, and you could click right on the number for the incomplete audits. That would take you to the incomplete audits the quickest way. Another way, if for some reason you would like to do it a different way, in the drop-down menu to the side where it says My Contract Audits, you can navigate through there to find the audits as well. But the simplest way, as I stated, is that if you have your dashboard set up, is to click right on the number, and it would take you directly to the different audits that you need to complete. So once you go to the audit, it's going to be listed in a spreadsheet format. As you can see, the different headers that are on this spreadsheet format is the status of the audit, has it been complete or incomplete, the audit period, the contract number and title, the organization, and then also paid to prime, whether it's pending or not. And so as you can see here, they also have different filters. So in order to complete the audits, you may want to filter on all those that are incomplete, or you may want to filter by the different audit periods. Also, you could filter by the different contracts, as well as you can filter by the different organizations that you have a contract, that you're working on a contract with. And so with that being the case, as was stated earlier, as you can see, there's a number in this example, there's a number of different regional organizations that are listed here, but all the information is listed in this one system to make it easier to track and to be able to complete these types of audits. And also, if the compliance officer has to follow up with you, it makes it a lot easier as it's being tracked through this one system here. So now, one of the options is that one of the things that if you are prime, one of the features that you need to remember is that you would need to, there'll be a self-reporting payment option that will be listed in the system. So once you click on that number for the audit, there'll be a section that says prime payment, and then it would say not reported. So then you would click on not reported, and then the screen would look something like this. So if you're a prime, you would report the payments that you will receive. And as you can see, this is for a specific audit period. As you see, and it's not reported. So essentially, you would enter the dollar amount and then any comments pertaining to this payment that was received. And so if there was For example, you didn't receive the full amount that you were supposed to receive. Let's just say you were paid 50,000, but you were supposed to be paid 60,000. So this is a comment section where you can put it in here and let it be known. So you want to also pay close attention to the items with asterisks. You want to make sure you're completing all the information. You're putting information in the sections that have asterisks. And so this is how you would do as a prime, you would self-report within the audit period. So now, when you're a prime and you're completing an audit for a subcontractor, so showing that the payment was made to a subcontractor, again, when you click on the number on the dashboard for the incomplete audits, then it will bring up the different audits that need to be completed for the subcontractors that are working for the prime. So you know this is a prime. As you can see here to the left, it says prime contractor. So under category, it says prime contractor. As you can see here in red, for this particular example, it's showing 172 subcontractor payments that need to be confirmed by this prime. You see the due date of when the audit needs to be completed, and then also you'll see when the audit will be locked. So you'll have a certain period of time to complete the audits, and if you don't complete it by a specific period of time, the audit will be locked. And so if you know that you're not going to complete the audit by a specific period of time, then you can request a due date extension. It provides that option to the prime. Now, if you are having a problem, or if the audit is locked, then as you see here, the compliance officer is listed for this particular contract. And in the portal system, you can click on the compliance officer's name. You'd be able to send them a message to, one, unlock the audit, or two, if you're having problems with the audits, you can communicate with the compliance officer through the portal system. Now, the portal system is where would be the main conduit for communication. So when the compliance officer responds, they're not sending it to your email. You would have to log back into the portal to see the response from the compliance officer. So all communication, when you communicate, when you click on the compliance officer's name, is done within the portal. So just making you aware of that. So you want to pay close attention to the items in red. And so in order to complete this audit, you would click on the red here, and it would take you to the audits that need to be completed for the different subcontractors. So once you're in the audit as a prime, this is how the screen would look. So this is the upper portion. So just to let you know, this is the screen that you would see, and this is the upper portion of the screen. And then on the next slide, I'm going to show you the lower portion of the screen. But this is the upper portion of the screen of what you're going to see. And as you will see here, for the prime, what you would see is the overall award for the contract. So this is the total dollar value of the contract. And as you can see here, this is payments that have been made to the prime up to this stage of the contract. So that's what would be here. You would also see here the overall, it says for credit. So this is for the diversity goals. So this is the overall award for the diversity goals. The companies that have diversity certifications on the project, this is their overall goal. And as you can see for this particular project, it's a 10% goal. And as you can see by the breakdown here, the 10% goal was for a DBE, diversity goal certification. So at this stage of the project, this is the dollar amount that has been paid to the companies that have the diversity goal certifications. And so as we scroll down here, as you would see, the total award amount, because it's only one diversity goal that's been assigned to this contract, so this is the total dollar amount. But if for some reason there were other diversity goals, so if it was like an MBE goal on here, a WBE goal, then you would see the different breakdowns here and the different dollar amounts that would be the overall awards for each of the different diversity goals. And so for this particular example, there's only one diversity goal, 10%, and it's showing what the payment has been made up until this time. So as we look at this portion here at the bottom, you're seeing that the percentage of the contract that has been paid to the prime up into this stage of the contract. And as you can see, it's in blue. And so it's tracking on pace with the payments to the completion of the project. Now, on the bottom portion here, it's showing the payments that have been made to the diversity goals, to the companies that have diversity certifications. And in doing that, you see it's in red. So that doesn't mean at this stage, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just tracking and saying at this stage of the project that the amount that's been paid to the subcontractors is a little behind where they would expect it to be at this stage of the project. Now, this is like a tracking tool. So this helps the prime and also helps the compliance officer. So if this was further along into the project and it's close to the end and it was still red, it's showing that tracking towards the end of the project, the amount of payments that have been made to the diversity goals is not tracking in the right direction. And so a game plan would need to be made to be able to reach those goals before the end of the contract. And so at this stage, it's still early, but it gives the prime, in case they are not on pace, that they could develop a plan to be able to make payments to the companies that have the diversity goals to make sure that they will be on pace to complete the payments by the time the contract is over. So we'll look at the bottom portion of the screen. So as is seen here, you see mark remaining subcontractors is 0. And so what it is that for every audit period, even if a subcontractor was paid $0, it needs to be notated within the system. So a $0 payment needs to be notated in the system for an audit period. And that is fine because if they just weren't working on that portion of the project or they're coming on later, that is fine. But it just needs to be notated that $0 were paid to a subcontractor during that time. So, for example, if the 174 subcontractors that are on here, if they were not receiving payment during this audit period, the simplest way to just notate that is to click this button here. But more than likely, some of the subcontractors are being paid during this audit period. So you would want to complete those first before clicking the button. If this is the final audit, so if it's coming to the end of the contract and this is the final audit, then this is the button you would click. If there are incomplete records, you would click this button here. And if you're having problems with an error reporting an audit, you would click this here. So these are the different subcontractors for this example here. And as you can see, the audit period, this is the audit period, November 2017. And so these are the subcontractors that are on the contract. And so as you can see here, in this particular case, this subcontractor vendor is certified. And as you saw, the diversity goal on this particular project was a DBE certification. So what this is showing here is that this particular vendor, this subcontractor, is a certified DBE. And it's also showing that 100% of the payment that is made to this subcontractor will go towards the diversity goal. So if this subcontractor, for example, was paid $100, then $100 would go towards the diversity goal, and that would be tracked in the upper portion that I just showed you. So it's showing here the actions that need to be completed. This particular subcontractor, their audit has not been completed for this period. It's showing that it's not reported. It's also showing for this particular subcontractor the payments that's been made to this subcontractor up until this point of the contract. Also, it's showing the overall contract goal for this subcontractor. And then here is at this stage of the project, what percentage has been completed by this subcontractor. So as we come down here, you see another subcontractor. As you can see, they're not certified. So the payments made to them would not go towards the diversity goal. So they would get paid, but it's just not going to go be added towards the diversity goals that we were showing earlier. And so it's the same process that it hasn't been reported yet. It's showing the total dollar value that has been paid to this subcontract up to this point, the overall goal for this subcontractor, and then the actual percentage as they've reached to this point. Now, one of the things I would like to highlight is that, as you see, this is saying sub 100% for this one here. For example, and you may see this for some of your subs, is depending if they are selected as like a supplier, or there's another topic, a reseller or something of that nature, it may say 60%. So you'll see sub 60%. And so what that means is that for the example that I stated before, like for this example, if $100 was paid to this subcontractor, then $100 will go towards the goal. If, for example, this sub was included in the goal, but they were selected as like a supplier, and it would be 60%. That means if this subcontractor was paid $100, only $60 would go towards the diversity goal. And so that's how it would be tracked. So it's not being shown here, but I'm just highlighting that why this is showing 100%, but you may see sometimes for this sub, it's a lower percentage. So there's a couple of ways that as a prime, you could submit a payment for the audit. You can do it as a single sub payment, and also there's a bulk sub payment option. So we'll show you the steps of a single sub payment. So as a single sub payment for this particular audit period, the prime would put the dollar amount that it paid to the subcontractor. Then the prime would also put the date of when they paid the subcontractor, and then they would give payment detail. So if it was a check number, if they wired the information, they wired the payment, then they would put that in here and give the wire confirmation number. They would put that in there. And then also, if there's any other supporting documents that they would like to provide showing that payment was made, a copy of the check that was used, you may attach it here. And then also, if there's any comments that they would like to present, they would like to state, they would put it here. Now, the comments are visible only to the compliance officer. So just to let you know, so the subcontractor would not see the comments that are in here. So as a bulk submission, it's very similar as doing it for a single, but as you can see, it's showing multiple subcontractors as opposed to one. But as you can see, for a specific audit period, it's the same information that's presented, it's just in a different layout. So if as a prime, you want to show complete the audit for multiple subs, all you would do as you move across, it's showing the payments that have been made to this subcontractor up until this audit period. Then the prime would put in the dollar amount that they paid to this subcontractor for this November audit period. It would put the date. Then they would enter the payment details. As you can see, they can attach a document. And then also if they have any comments. So it's the same information as for a single sub payment, but it's laid out differently. And so it also streamlines the process for completing multiple sub audits within the system. So once you complete the audit, then it will bring you back to the main screen. If there was an item, if there was a problem, or if you just need to communicate with the compliance officer, once again, the compliance officer is in the lower left-hand corner. You can click on their name. You can send a message to the compliance officer, and they would communicate with you through the B2G system, not via email. So you would have to log back in to see their response. So, as I stated previously, the steps for completing audits as a prime is very similar to steps the completing audits as a subcontractor, but there are some different nuances because what's needed to be completed by a sub is different than a prime. But the layout would be very similar, and the information would be very similar as well. So, as you can see, as a subcontractor needs to complete an audit, they would receive an email with two options. And the first option is for a specific audit period. The second option is for the overall audits that this subcontractor needs to complete. Once you go into the audits, it's the same dashboard type setup. And once you click on the number for the number of incomplete audits, it would bring you to a spreadsheet format like this for the different audits that need to be completed for the subcontractor. As you can see, has the same type headings, and it also has the same type filters. And so for a sub, they can filter off incomplete audits. They can filter off the different audit periods. It's the same, very similar as it was for a prime. So now, you know this is a subcontractor because as you see on the category, where it said prime on the previous example, it's showing tier 1 subcontractor. So you know this is a subcontractor. And then also, you again want to make sure you're paying close attention to the items in red. And so you're confirming that the payment was received. So you would just click there. Here you're showing when the audit needs to be completed. And then also you'll see when the audit will be locked. If the audit is locked, once again, you can click on the compliance officer's name and you can send a message to them to ask them to unlock the audit. Also, if you're having questions or issues with your audit, again, you can communicate with the compliance officer by clicking on their name in the lower left. So in order to enter the audit, you would click on the red portion here. That's how you would enter it. Now, it's showing you this is the specific audit period. And so what you're doing as a subcontractor is confirming the prime's payment. So the prime is stating this dollar amount was paid to the subcontractor. Now, as a subcontractor, you will see that the prime is stating that they use this check number. So as a subcontractor, you would state that is this dollar amount correct or incorrect. So they'll have two radio buttons here. And so the one radio button will be for incorrect, the other one will be for correct. And so for this example, we're going to state that the dollar amount that is being stated here is correct. And so once you click on it, then that's the first step. Then you would show when the payment date, when did you receive it? And then were you paid in accordance with the organization's prompt payment policy? You make sure to answer yes, no, or not applicable. And that's how you would go through. Now, if for some reason, let's just say the prime is stating that $34,589 was paid, but as a subcontractor, you only received $30,000. So then you would click the incorrect radio button. And then there would be information there that you would need to complete to show to complete for this audit. Now, the system will allow you as a prime and subcontractor one interaction to be able to rectify a payment discrepancy. So again, if the prime is stating a certain dollar value, such as $34,589 was paid, but the subcontractor is saying only $30,000, it allows one interaction and they could send information to one another. If it is not completed within that one interaction, then the compliance officer would need to get involved and do research to figure out where the discrepancy is so that the situation can be resolved. So once you complete payment, the audit payment, it would say payment confirmed. And then again, if you need to communicate with the compliance officer, it can be done there. And that would be how the audit is completed for a subcontractor. So also with the payment history, as was previously stated, that even if a vendor is not paid during an audit period, if it's $0, it just needs to be notated that $0, as seen as an example here, was paid during an audit period. So for these different periods, $0 was paid to this subcontractor, and it's been confirmed. So so that going through the project, it's known that it wasn't just forgotten, it just wasn't completed. It's just stating that $0 were paid to the vendor during that audit period. So you want to make sure that the information in the portal is correct. If you're a user, if you're the one who has to complete the audit, so the users tab, you want to make sure that your information is correct, because again, the audits need to be completed in a timely manner. So if the email stating that there's an audit that needs to be completed is going to the wrong person, let's just say someone used to work at your organization and they no longer work there, or they switch to a different job and it's no longer their responsibility, these audits still need to be completed in a timely manner. So you want to make sure that the contact information is correct. And the person who's responsible for completing the audit doesn't need to be necessarily the person that completes the audit, but there will be a person who's responsible for receiving the email to state that the audit needs to be completed, and then there could be other people assigned to actually complete the audits. Because remember, you could add different accounts for people in your organization. So, as a vendor, if you need to add a subcontractor, you would go to the subcontractors tab. And then as you would see, these are the different levels subcontractors. So there's a couple of ways that you can add a subcontractor. So you can go, if you're adding it right below another subcontractor, so if it's just one level down, like in this example, you can go to add tier 2 sub, and then you'll be able to add the information. Also, if you click on add first tier subcontractor, you can do it here. Now, let me highlight here. In that example, as I was showing to you, you can click add first tier subcontractor at the bottom of the sub list. And as I go back here, you can click that. You can also click to the right of the existing subcontractor to add a lower tier beneath that subcontractor. That's what I highlighted to you over here. Now, one thing you want to make sure you keep in mind, a prime can request subs at all tiers. A subprime or subcontractor can request their own subcontractor. So it's only one level down that they can do it. They can request their own subcontractors. A prime can request subs at all tiers. So you just want to keep that in mind. Now, when you click on add the subcontractor, then it would bring you to a screen like this. Once again, you want to pay close attention to the items in red and the items that have asterisks next to it, red asterisks. And you want to make sure that you're completing the information that is needed for these different areas. So one of the things I want to highlight is that once you select the vendor, remember certain projects require certain diversity goals. companies that have different diversity certifications. And so what would happen is once you select the vendor, when you go here and select the vendor, then what's going to happen is this section here will automatically populate with whatever diversity certifications they have. So you don't necessarily need to follow up with the company or have them send you anything to see if they have these diversity certifications. It would automatically populate in this section right here if they have a MBE, DBE, SBE, WBE certification. It would automatically populate right here. And then one of the other items that you want to just want to make sure you highlight is that counts towards certified gold. And so we'll walk through that a little bit more on the next few slides. So for this particular example, this is the vendor that was selected. And as you can see, their certifications automatically populated in this area here. So as you're going through the next steps to adding them as a subcontractor, you would make sure that you're completing the items that have red asterisks next to it. And one of the things, as was highlighting, counts towards certified gold. So this particular vendor has the WBE certification. So you want to make sure that it's being tracked going through the contract, going through the project lifecycle, that payments made to this subcontractor goes towards that goal. So if there's a specific goal on the project, it's a WBE goal. Any payments made towards this subcontractor would go towards that goal. And so you would have to select it here. Now, if for some reason you did not want to add them as one of the vendors that are working towards those diversity goals, you could click no. But if you want to make sure that you're achieving the goals that were set on the project, you would want to make sure you click yes and then select whatever certification goal it was that this vendor has, so that as it's going through the different audit periods, it will be tracked. So once you complete all the information for this vendor, they'll be added as a subcontractor. They'll be in a pending status. So as can be seen here. So the information has been added, shows that they're certified, shows that they're included in the goals, and then for future compliance audits. Now, once the diversity officer, the compliance officer, once the compliance officer reviews this, make sure that everything's in order, then they would approve it, and then they will go from pending to approved. And as you would see here, they've been added as a subcontractor on the project. So as we go through here, so I'm just going to stop sharing right now because we're going to go into the actual portal system and go through the different steps that I highlighted on the PowerPoint. So if you give me one moment to transition from one screen to another. Okay, so right now you should be seeing the landing page for the diversity management program, the portal system. If someone could just let me know if that's what it's saying, if they could just come off mute. Is that what you're seeing? I just want to make sure I'm sharing properly.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So remember, as I stated during the PowerPoint presentation, if you're not sure if you have an account on the portal system, you would go here to account lookup, click on account lookup. You would enter your company name, your business name, or the tax identification number. Click enter. So for this particular example, these are the different entities that have an account on this portal system. So if we would click on here, as you can see, their email, phone number, location. If you need to reset the password, this is where you would do it. If you need to update this information, request contact information change, that's how you would do it there. And then also, if you do not have an account on here, you would just need to find someone on a list and they could request to add you as a new user entity, or you could get in contact with the compliance officer or B2G now. And once they confirm that you work for the organization, they could add you on as an entity as well. So let me do this here. I just need to stop sharing my screen one more time to actually walk you into the portal. So give me 1 second. Hang on. But one thing I want to highlight is, so when you're looking to log in, this is what the login would look like. You would enter your username, you would enter your password here and click login. And then it would look like this. Give me 1 second. Okay, it would look like this once you log in. Remember I was stating that once you set up your dashboard, it would look like this. And so if you, when completing the audits, the simplest way to complete the audit, you can either go to the drop-down menu over here, or you could just simply click on the audit number. You click on it. So you see all the audits that need to be completed. And as you can see by the different headers, as was shown in that spreadsheet format, so you can filter on the different information here, different audit periods, the contract number, the organization. You can do that here. So we're going to complete an audit as a prime. Now, you know this is a prime contractor because, again, under the category it says prime over here. It's showing that there are 2 subcontractor payments that need to be completed for this audit. Here you're seeing when the audit needs to be completed and when the audit will be locked. And as you can see, the compliance officer's name is highlighted, is changing color here. If I needed to communicate with the compliance officer, I would just click on their name and I can be able to send them a message. So to enter this audit, I will click on here. As I showed you previously, this is the upper portion of the screen. So this is the overall goal for this contract. This is the overall dollar amount that has been paid to this prime up to this stage of the contract. This is the overall diversity goal on this contract. As you can see, it's a total of 17% for this particular contract. And this is showing the dollar amount that has been paid towards the diversity goals for this contract. Now, as you can see, the prime has been paid this dollar amount. So this is the overall goal, 412 million, a little over 412 million, $412.5 million. Now here, it's showing that $410.1 million has been paid already to the prime. So it's coming pretty close to the end of this contract. Now, as you can see here, these are the diversity goals that were set for this particular contract. So you see there's an MBE goal of 12%, a WBE goal of 5%. And then you can see the different breakdown award amounts that totaled would add up to this amount here. Now you see the dollar amounts that have been paid to those vendors that have the MBE certification, and you see the dollar amount that's been paid to those vendors that have WBE certification. Now, as you can see this here, as you can see, it's 99%. It's very close to the end of the contract. And at this stage of the contract, only 4% of the goal has been paid to the companies that have these diversity goals. So there would need to be a discussion that's had between the compliance officer and the prime to let them know, hey, we're coming close to the end of the contract, and it seems that the payments that need to be made towards these subcontractors with these diversity goals, it needs to catch up to be able to be completed before the end of this contract. And so this is what was stated before. As the compliance officer is reviewing this through the different audit periods, they should be able to track this. And so wouldn't necessarily wait until this stage to have that discussion with the prime. They probably would have had that discussion at an earlier stage to show that they're not trending in the right direction to be able to meet the goals before the end of the contract. So as we scroll down to the lower portion of the screen, as was stated here, there's two subcontractors that if they're not being paid during this audit period, then the easiest thing to do would just be click this button here. But if they are being paid, then you would have to go through and submit a response. As you can see, you can mark this audit as final if it's the last audit that needs to be completed. If there was incomplete records, you need to submit all the incomplete records. You can click that. And if you're reporting an error, you can report that. You can do it by clicking here. Now, in the example I had spoken about during the PowerPoint presentation, I had mentioned something about if you see 100% or 60%. So for this particular example here, this subcontractor, they're certified, and they're certified as an MBE company. But because they're not a subconsultant or a subcontractor on the project, because they're considered a dealer, then for this particular contract, 60% of the payment that is made to this subcontractor will go towards the goal. So for example, if $100 was paid to this subcontractor, only $60 would be accounted for going towards the goal. So that's how you can see within the system which companies are certified, but also what percentage is going towards goal. As you can see in this particular case here, they're considered a subcontractor, and as you can see, 100% of payments that go towards this subcontractor will go towards the diversity goal. So to submit a response, you would just click on here. So as was seen, this is an audit period for October 2022. It's also showing you total paid to this subcontractor to the previous audit. That's the total dollar amount. And then amount paid for specifically for the last audit, it's showing here. So as we scroll down here, the prime will state that they paid this particular subcontractor, let's say $33,000. And remember, this is an October audit period, October 2022. So they completed the audit. They completed the audit at this time here, that they made this payment, completed this time here. And then was this paid in a timely manner? You would click here. I asked that if everyone can keep their WebEx on mute during the presentation. Thank you. There will be an opportunity for a question and answer shortly after I go through the portal system. So payment details, if there is a specific check or if there was a wire amount, but we say check number 213 was used to pay this subcontractor. And so if you needed to add any documentation, like if you want to use a copy of the check or show if it was a wire, you want to show the wire confirmation number or something, you could attach it here, and then you could add comments. And then once you do that, click review. So it would make sure that the information that you wanted to provide is correct. You would review it, then click save. And then you've just completed the audit as for prime for subcontractors. Now, this particular vendor in this system, they are a prime on certain projects, and then on other projects, they're a subcontractor. So that's why you'll see that they have access in different ways. So on this project, they're a prime, but on this project, they're a subcontractor. So you know they're a subcontractor on this project because, as you can see here under the category, it's showing that they're a tier 1 subcontractor. So they would be confirming a payment that the prime on the contract has stated that they've paid for this audit period. So you see when the audit needs to be complete. You'll see when the audit will be locked. Once again, you see the compliance officer here in case you need to communicate with them. You click on their name. Go in here. So for this particular audit for a subcontractor, the prime is stating that this dollar amount was paid to the subcontractor. As was stated with the 2 radio buttons, is this correct or incorrect? We're going to state for this example that it's correct. So this is for the October 2020 audit. So click correct. It would state that the payment was received we'll say the payment was received on the 5th. Were you paid in accordance with the prompt payment policy? You would answer yes, no, or not applicable. In this case, we'll say yes. Detail the work you performed for this payment. Is this the final payment? If you're going through the process of this contract, and if it's not, you would click no. But if it is, then you would click yes, because this may be the last payment that you're receiving. But if it's not, you would click no. Is prime withholding retainage? More than likely, it is no. But also, you'd have to know there may be certain requirements in your contract that you were added for you joining the project. And so they may be holding retainage. You would need to just make sure that that is the case for you, that is not withholding retainage. And that's usually the default item for being added to a contract. But if there's any questions, you can always get in contact with your compliance officer. But in this case, we'll say no. If you're attaching any files, because again, remember, if there was any discrepancies, so let's just say hypothetically, there's this 31,276 that the prime is saying that they paid, but you only received 29,000. So if you need to attach like your bank statements or any other items that would support your argument, you can attach it here. And so as a subcontractor, you have 2 options for comments. There's public comments. The public comments is visible by the compliance officer and the prime contractor. The private comments is strictly for the compliance officer. So there may be some comments that you just want the compliance officer to see, and then there may be some comments that you would like both the compliance officer and the prime contractor to see. So if that, you would make that decision on how you want to do that here. This is automatically checked so that you can receive a confirmation of your response. Click this here, then click save. And that's how you complete the audit as a subcontractor. So as we go through here, and So remember, we also discussed in the PowerPoint presentation adding subcontractors. As you can see here on this tab, adding a subcontractor. So as we go over here, as you see, add first tier subcontractor. Remember, you want to pay close attention to the items that are in red and also have the asterisk marks next to it. So as you can see, this is empty right now. Once you click on Get Vendor, there's different ways that you can drill down to select a vendor. So you can type in their name. If you're not sure of the vendor you want to choose, you could add as much information as you can, and it'll give you options. So you can put in a city, you can put in a state. As you scroll down here, if there's different certifications that you need for a project, you click here and you can look through the list for the certifications that you need. A vendor that has a specific certification, you click on there. You can also look with advanced search parameters here for other information. So it's ethnicity or gender, you can click here and then you can do the search. But if you know the specific company you would like to use, then you can enter it here. If you need to add them, then click enter. So as you can see, their information will populate, then you select vendor. And as can be seen in this example, once I selected this vendor, notice their different diversity certifications automatically populated in here. So I wouldn't need to follow up with them and ask them to send it to me. I see that they're already within the system. So you want to make sure, again, is the items with the red asterisks. You want to make sure that you're completing these items. So this is given a total dollar amount on this contract. So is this a subcontractor, you want to put in a specific dollar amount or by percent of what this is supposed to be? Because remember, there's a certain percentage goal that will be put on a contract. These are the two ways that you can do it. More than likely you put the dollar amount. So this particular subcontractor, we'll say 350,000. Including compliance audits, yes. Count towards certified goals. Remember how I explained before? So let's just say there are MBE goals on this particular project. So you want to make sure that any payments that go towards this particular subcontractor will go towards the goal. So you would click yes, then you would click here, you would pick MBE. Type of participation. Remember how I was explaining if they're a subcontractor, subconsultant, then 100% would go to it. But remember in the examples that was in there that with these examples, if they're a supplier, even though they have the certification, if it's one of these is selected, it'll be 60% of the payment that goes towards this vendor would go towards the goal. But we're going to add them on as a subcontractor, subconsultant. Work description, we'll say IT maintenance. So subcontract award commit date. So then you would enter this information here. Let's say estimated work start date. Estimated work end date. You don't necessarily have to put it. As you can see, these are the different items that have asterisk marks, but you can put it if you wanted to. Add vendor to existing audits for this contract. So what would happen is, let's just say, hypothetically, this vendor is just currently being added as a subcontractor to this contract, but they had started working on the contract already. So if they already started working on the contract already and you need to track the payments that you made to them, then you would put yes, add this subcontractor to all audits going back to whenever they started on the project. But more than likely, this subcontractor, if everything was done in the correct order, the subcontractor is just being added to the contracted. And so the next payment audit would be their first audit. Then you would click no. So this, as you can see, is the default is no. But if for some reason they started on the project prior to you adding them as a subcontractor, then you would have to account for the payments that have been made to them on the previous audits, and you would click yes. Any other comments at this stage? Not applicable. Click review. So you would review the different information, make sure it's correct, click save. Now it's been added as a subcontractor. As you can see by this here, it says your request has been submitted for review. A decision notice will be sent when the review is complete. Because remember, the compliance officer needs to make sure that everything is in line for this subcontractor being added. And once they approve it, then they'll be added as a subcontractor to the contractor. So with that being the case, I've showed you how to complete the audit as a prime, how to complete the audit as a subcontractor, also how to add a subcontractor to a project. So with that being the case, we can open up the floor for questions at this point pertaining the presentation.
Robert,
Also-
I would like to